On a sultry afternoon in Daytona Beach, Florida, we welcome you to the World Center of Racing, Daytona International Speedway. It's Xfinity Series qualifying at the 2.5-mile High Banks Super Speedway. A long list of activities this afternoon, starting with setting the grid for the Xfinity Series. Here's how the championship looks after 14 races, 3 winners. Most recently, the guy in the middle there, William Byron, the rookie who won just last week at Iowa. Good afternoon, everyone. Dave Burns with you, along with Kyle Petty and Dale Jarrett in Daytona Beach. It is hot. It is almost July. And, KP, when we come here this time of year, what do you first think of?
The happiest place on earth. If you're a race car driver, this is where you want to be. This is where you want to be in February when the 500 rolls around and when the big races are run then. But this is where you want to be around the 4th of July.
Yeah, now I'm thinking sultry because you brought that in. Victory Lane is what I think of. When you drive through the gates of Daytona, it just immediately comes to mind. That's where every driver that comes through those the tunnel and the gates here thinks about. They want to end up either tonight or tomorrow night is in Victory Lane. No better place.
It does so much for you as a young driver or even as a veteran. Think what it's done for Ryan Reed. His second win at Daytona came earlier this year, set him up for the playoffs, and it was a dramatic finish again, DJ.
Yeah, and he's really become a good plate racer. He understands exactly where he needs to position himself. Out front's always a good place, but he does a really good job of keeping his car intact throughout the hectic stages that we now have and get himself positioned right and really going to Victory Lane, nothing like it.
Yeah, he has done a phenomenal job. And you know, we watched him last year here go from inside to outside and block just like the big guys do on the Cup Series.
We're looking at Justin Allgaier here now, KP. What shot does he have in your mind?
You know, I think he's got a great shot. And at a place like this especially, remember, he came within inches of winning this race last year. Eric Almirola, when the caution came out and the caution lights came on. And I'm not talking feet. I'm talking inches he came within.
Arguable, right?
Yeah, and if I go back over the last year and a half, he has come into his own as a race car driver. He is doing things in this number 7 and on the racetrack with this team that says these guys are champions and these guys are ready to win these big races.
Yeah, and I'm going to go within the same organization and go with Elliott Sadler in that one car. He's become one of the best restrictor plate racers that there are, and he understands exactly what to do. He led 2 stages here, the first 2 stages, back in February, but that didn't translate into a victory, so you have to put it all together. But Elliott, I know, wants to get that victory column, that 1 in there to start with before he gets in the playoffs. He's pretty safe as far as the points go, as far as making the playoffs, but they may not ever be safe around here.
Now, to do this racing well takes a lot of guts, and you guys always have it, but here you've got to be precise as well.
You have to be precise, and sometimes you can't even be that. You think that you've got some. You go by feel so much, and all it takes is just a couple of inches of a mistake to create something big here.
Yeah, and we talked about, you know, Allgaier last year lost this race by inches. We saw him in a wreck there just by inches, just hook a bumper. The problem is a lot of these accidents, as we're looking at this one, they happen in a straight line. They're not happening in a corner when these guys are making moves in the corner, coming down to the last lap or coming down to do something special. They run into each other in the middle of the straightaways.
That'll be later tonight, 250 miles here at Daytona. First, we need to set the grid. There'll be 2 rounds of qualifying coming up. We'll talk to some of the participants when we come back to Daytona.
Welcome back to Daytona. Xfinity Series qualifying just about to get underway here. Brandon Jones put his car on pole here at Daytona back in February. Limited practice yesterday, but do you feel like you have the speed in this car to do it again today?
It's going to be close for sure. You know, I think we do have a really good Rain-X Chevrolet. We just did a couple laps, like you mentioned earlier, in practice. Didn't want to risk, you know, getting in the draft and, you know, maybe tearing something up there. So we'll see here. I think we're going to have a pretty good shot at it.
All right, and check this out, Dave. You messed with the bull. You get the horns.
Oh.
Brandon Jones supposed to be the bull today.
That'll put that on the front of the car for the race, I do believe. Might not make it through tech, though. We come back to Daytona. Cars will roll. Single lap qualifying coming up. Talk about everyone in just a moment. One word says it all. Daytona. The high banks, the safer barrier right there. Stay out of that. You could find your way to Victory Lane in the most famous racing stage there is. Xfinity Series qualifying right now. Dave Burns, Kyle Petty, Dale Jarrett, along with Kelly and Parker down on pit road. These are the rules for the qualifying format this afternoon. This is not group qualifying. There will be 2 rounds with the top 12 advancing to the 2nd round. See how much speed they can make in single car runs. Just about to roll. Parker, we mentioned he is down in the heat. How you doing there, friend?
Well, it's definitely hot, but I found a guy who has a refreshing melons with him most of the time. But Ross Chastain coming off his best finish in Iowa of 4th, best finish in the Xfinity Series, going into single car qualifying right now. What do you think your hopes are?
You know, we don't put too much into qualifying here, being with the draft and what it all does. So, you know, we just, obviously we're going out pretty early. We just do one lap in practice and go race. That's all. That's what Johnny Davis with Gary Keller, it's what our team wants to do, and that's what we plan to do. But come draft time, we'll be there.
He's going to be aiming for the draft, guys. If you look over there, his shoulder, he's got a melon that he's going to put on his actual melon.
Very nice, Parker.
That's cool.
His family involved in growing those particular, not those particular watermelons, but really tasty ones. And it's been a lot of the reason why he's been able to go racing over the years. Glad to see that theme continuing for Ross Chastain. Here's a theme. Mike Harmon on track in the 74. And after a little bit of trouble in practice yesterday, had to change a steering box on that race car. Mike is on track, leading it off here in Xfinity Series qualifying. DJ, if you get a funny feeling in a steering box at any racetrack, first move is to diagnose it, right?
Yeah, definitely want to change that, especially here, because as you run in the draft so much and be around other cars, you have to have a good feel, know exactly what you're looking for, and knowing that when you do turn the wheel at all, that the race car is going to react and go where you want to.
Harmon down the backstretch now. We can see gathering speed up over 175 miles per hour. Now just playing with that. And Kyle, we don't expect to see much red in the throttle brake zone there, do we?
No, none at all, really. You know, this is from the time these guys leave pit road and go up through the gears, it's pretty much wide open around this place. It fascinates me to watch these guys qualify now in the Xfinity Series and the Cup, where they stay right on that yellow line. I mean, when Dell and I, when you used to come down here and it was unrestricted and even restricted, you let the car have its head. You let it run free and wanted to keep the car free. But back to the steering box, you don't want to be scrubbing any speed off by putting too much wheel in it. And if he was having issues with it, maybe he thought that he had too much wheel in it at some point in time.
Jeff Green has left pit road, made his way around. They send him out about the time a driver gets down the backstretch. They'll send around the second car, and Green is on the track now in the 8th. The Owensboro, Kentucky former Xfinity Series champion taking to Daytona.
And these cars would, as we've seen in years past, 2 laps basically getting up to speed. That second lap is going to be quicker, but this is fair to everyone.
Yes.
If everybody's only getting one, it puts a little bit of a premium on making sure that you get up through the gears and get your car up to speed as quickly as you possibly can. That's basically the one thing the driver has to do here, besides not turning the wheel any more than you have to.
And I like, they call it rapid fire qualifying, where when the guy goes past the start finish line, once he gets to turn 2, NASCAR sends the next car.
Yep.
They used to just call that qualifying. That's the way they did it every week, was when the car got to the backstretch, they sent the next car.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm positive,
right,
man. I'm positive. This group qualifying and all this stuff, this is all foreign to me.
You know, I always look to you for the facts.
Yeah. Well, don't look to me for facts, okay?
I was kidding. I was totally kidding. Jeff Green is in second to Mike Harmon. Harmon's still with the fastest speed at this point. And cars rolling in the heat here. Kudos to our entire crew out in the elements today. The heat index is over 100 degrees. And it is warm out there this afternoon, so hang in there. Fortunately, tonight the sun will go down. They'll race in the cool of the evening, relative cool. And B.J. McLeod will be another one, joining 39 of his competitors in that field.
You know, these guys have come down here, and earlier they only went out yesterday. Some of these guys only went out and run like 2 laps.
Yeah.
4 laps. I mean, and we heard him talk about Johnny Davis. You know, their plan, their team, the Johnny Davis team, their plan was, let's come down here, make sure nothing's leaking, nothing's rubbing, and we're going to set it out. We're not going to run any practice. We're just going to go out and qualify and race. We wouldn't see that at Iowa Speedway last week. We wouldn't see that at the next race. These guys spend their time, but they've run this package enough that they understand it. They ran it at Daytona. They ran it at Talladega. They understand the package. They understand what the aero requirements are and what everything is, so they know the cars.
B.J. McLeod, one of several Florida drivers in the field this afternoon. Here's a Texan, David Starr, in the 99. His spotter is a David as well. David Pepper spots for this team, and Pepper had a good story for him when I saw him yesterday. Not only did a couple of different guys have to practice this car because Starr wasn't in it yet, but he took his mom to dinner for a birthday dinner. His mom, Shirley, is turning 85. There she is. And they brought her to Daytona for the first time. She's been to a lot of speedways, but never Daytona. And they're surprised. Well, I can't give away the surprise. But they brought her here to celebrate. And you might think Shirley might be shocked by all this loud noise. Not even. A couple years ago, David told me that she called him up and said, I hear you have an extra ticket to the AC/DC concert. I want to go. And she went, and she rocked with those youngins, and they had a great time high-fiving them all night. She's a go-getter, and Shirley won in the crowd this evening.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was a great story. David Starr in the field in the 99, and he will be second to B.J. McLeod. More qualifying at Daytona when we come back. 2.5 miles, single lap. Starr, the most recent. Back at Daytona, thanks for joining us this afternoon. Brandon Brown finishing up his qualifying run in the 90 car. Actually taking the green right there. Apologize for that. Thought he was coming to the checker. He's still under speed. And he's on it. Down the back stretch. Actually jumped in line a bit ahead of the 0 car of Garrett Smithley, trying to figure out what's going on with Garrett at this point. He was scheduled to go right now. But Brown from Woodbridge, Virginia, takes to the speedway, 23-year-old. Kyle, I'm told that Woodbridge is also the hometown of 2 of our 3 stats guys. What do you think of that?
No way.
It's true.
Wow.
Joe, who's suspended, and Jimmy, who sits next to me. No,
suspended with pay, though.
That's right. That's right. No, Joe's not here. We miss him. Brandon Brown now coming through in the fastest speed so far this afternoon at Daytona. 178.13. Kelly?
Down here with Brendan Gaughan, who's been showing off his best dance moves, and I am impressed. Top 5 street the last couple outings here at Daytona. Given how much carnage we've seen in these restrictor plate races in the Xfinity Series, how important is it to qualify up front and try to get ahead of some of that?
Short track restrictor plate racing. You know, you still can qualify wherever you want. There's an ebb and flow of this race. You're going to go to the back, to the front. It is nice to start up front. You can kind of stay there, stay calm for a little while. With stage racing, you want the points, and the South Point team or the Special Tactics Squadron team this week, I'd love to get some of those stage points and stay up front. So that's what our goal is. But that being said, normally Shane Wilson, we don't put a lot of emphasis on being the slickest race car here. I think we're going to need downforce with the heat, and I think this Chevrolet is going to be really good for that today.
All right, looking for stage points, had a stage win last week.
DJ, what do you think of that? The comment, needing the downforce with the heat.
I like that idea. This is going to be even a different animal as they took all of this than what we saw in February, because even though they have a race under their belt here, this racetrack is going to be much slicker. They've got a different tire that's going to wear more, so I like the idea of a little extra downforce tonight.
Chastain fastest in round 1. Puts the 4 car for Johnny Davis Racing to the top right now. By the way, this will be his 88th start in the series. 88, not a bad number anytime at Daytona. His teammate Garrett Smithley now on track in the 0 car. Pennsylvania driver is 25 years old and fun to talk to. Very enthusiastic about racing and getting his starts with Johnny Davis Racing. 2nd full-time season.
Yeah, these 2 team cars they run together week in and week out. It's really interesting how they never get too far apart from each other. But I want to go back to something, listening to Brendan talk a little bit. There's an ebb and flow to the race. But then he starts talking about stage racing. And he's right. There is an ebb and flow to a race. But that's what's so cool about stage racing. It breaks that ebb and flow up. And he talks about now you'd kind of want to qualify up front because you want those stage points. So if you start too far back, sometimes you don't get there at the end of that first stage.
Parker's with Justin Allgaier. Parker?
Right, and we were just discussing how close he was to winning this race last year, Justin. Does it stick on your mind as you're here back for another weekend at Daytona?
It has to. I mean, anytime you come to Daytona and you're that close, we all want to win here. This is such a cool place, a lot of history. So, yeah, it does. But I had a black nose last year, so we made sure with our trademark nitrogen Chevy that we got the nice bright blue of the patriotic flag on the front so that if it comes down to video evidence, we're out there in front. But huge thank you to Xfinity, allowing us to change the front windshield banner. I have the first Armor Brigade Combat Unit, 3rd Infantry, the Raider Brigade on my car this week. Really cool that NASCAR does so much to support our military and our men and women that are in the troops. So cool to have that on the car. Trademark nitrogen back again this year. We want to go to victory lane so bad. I don't think we'll qualify very good, but one of the strengths of junior motorsports is our race team, how these cars race, and we've been close every time we've gone to a restricted plate track, so we're trying to do it again.
Dave, they're even changing the nose color, trying to gain an advantage.
How about that? Betting that if there's video evidence to be observed, that if he has a brighter nose, might be to his advantage.
You never know. I like the idea that they think they might be in that position again, that should make a difference. So do everything you can.
We'll see what happens. That was Josh Williams completing his run in the 92 car. The nose of the 7, different this year. It's a, well, it's not black. Still kind of dark. I don't know. We'll see what happens. NASCAR explaining to us this morning once again their procedures for race end, which is they'll go to all means if they get to the overtime line and then a caution comes out. And that can happen here. We're all looking forward to tonight's action. The Firecracker 250 here at Daytona. Here's a third member of the Johnny Davis Racing crew this weekend, Harrison Rhodes from High Point, North Carolina.
Harrison's done a good job. He's come up through the Legends cars and local tracks and stuff like that, and has been around for a year or two, a couple years now, but has done a good job. I think the group that he's with now, he's probably learned more about being a race car driver and how to drive some of these race tracks, and we see the finishes in this car get better.
When you go to Johnny Davis Racing, you work hard. It's a small group, but you learn a lot. And Johnny has trained so many people throughout the garage area about this sport.
Yeah, and these drivers that are there, as Kyle was pointing out, they understand their position, you know, and I think that Ross Chastain probably pointed it out as much as anything. You know, we can't come here, take a chance of tearing something up in a practice session. We need to be in the race. That's where the money's paid. We know what our cars are going to do, basically. This is what we have to work with, and they're very accepting of that fact. But there are opportunities, and when the good opportunities present themselves, these drivers do a really good job of getting the most out of their equipment.
2 races this weekend, the 400 tomorrow night, the 250 tonight, and there are 7 double-duty drivers who will run both of them. This is one of them, Ryan Sieg from Tucker, Georgia. Talked to Ryan's crew chief, Bruce Cook, yesterday about their role here. Took just a few laps out there, and kind of the same to the Johnny Davis discussion. He knows that he's not a Cup-affiliated team, as so many are, and so just took a couple of practice laps and said, we're done. We don't need to mess around anymore.
Yeah, and what a great race for him last week.
Yes.
Right there with an opportunity to try to win the race. Gave William Byron everything he could handle there for a little bit on that last restart, and just great to see them have that type of success.
All the top 5 last week, career best finishes, and that was fun to watch. So Sieg is in top of the board right now for him. Just a tick over 180 miles per hour for his Chevrolet. Speaking of Chevrolets and power, here comes Blake Cook.
There's another driver that finds his way in these plate races in particular. Finds his way up towards the front and giving himself a chance at either a good finish, or if something happens, then he can take advantage of someone else's misfortune and get up there. They have enough speed that he knows he can race if he gets in that spot late in the race.
Yeah, we did an interview with him right after the February race, and he's like, I love segment racing. He said, I was running along about 12th or 15th and thought, I'm going to go get me some points. And he said right at the end of the race, he dropped in the 8th or 9th, but it was like there was an intensity and there was something to fight for at that time. And he said that just added something for these guys to shoot at.
Here comes Cook to the tri-oval, crossing the start-finish line, trips the timing wire.
Oh, wow. That's a lot faster than anybody else has gone right there.
To the top, and to the top groove, trying to get as much momentum as he can. Brandon Jones in the 33. As we look back to what happened in February, it wasn't a pretty ending.
No, that's a massive hit right there. It's something when you get hit in the right rear and you're turned, you have no time to react. But once you hit that, you can see he gets hit again and then into the wall again. And it's those second and third times that you hit that really kind of take the breath out of you, because your belts have loosened up. You're not expecting something else after that because you didn't even have time to react to that first one.
The forces at these speeds are tremendous. The safety is incredible. And more often than not, these drivers walk away, which is fantastic.
Yeah, it's those type of accidents that when we look at the safer barriers, just how much that has helped in those situations, Kyle. We both, unfortunately, hit those concrete walls that are right behind that enough to know what that feels like in that, and it's just nice these drivers don't have to encounter that.
Yeah, it is a blessing that these guys don't have to encounter that. And we talked about this yesterday during practice, and when Brandon talked about it, he's like, that is the hardest hit I've ever encountered in my entire career.
The top two right now are the guys who have won the poles for both restrictor plate races in 2017. So a good showing so far for those ECR motors.
Yeah, that's a really fast lap that Blake Cook put down there. That's be interesting to see where that stacks up, because you're getting right there in that time of what people can do. I think it certainly will put him on through to the next round.
Well, and yesterday in practice, I was thinking about the times there, too. We are going slowest practice time to quickest, but there were some that ran in the pack a little bit more and some that didn't. And so this is a little bit jumbled in terms of that.
Yeah, you can. When you're out there in a pack, you can make that time whatever you want to. You know, if you're going to lead the pack, then your time's not going to be as fast. If you're going to get back about 7th or 8th and catch a group of cars in front of you, then you put up a nice number. But that's a number that's not obtainable out here in single car qualifying.
Jeremy Clements on track now in the 51. We head back down to pit. Oh, we're going to hang up here for just a minute. And Clements continues on, coming to the line here. All these drivers have transponders in their race cars that trip a wire that's stretched across the start-finish line. Give the accurate time there. Clements will clock in 12th. Remember the days before transponders? That was a while ago. Okay, let's head down to Parker now. Hey, Parker.
Thank you, Dave, for getting to us finally. Good on you to wait there, but I'm here with the first-time winner in the Xfinity Series last week at Iowa, William Byron. And you were just telling me after all the success that iRacing afforded you to get here in real cars, you didn't even iRace this week. Come on, man. Were you celebrating?
Yeah, I was probably just, we were racing on the sim, actually. We did a couple road courses and stuff for Chevy, so that was good. But mainly just kind of enjoying the week and getting ready for Daytona with the guys, so really excited for tonight.
Good stuff. Well, best of luck to you tonight, bud. Guys?
It was a big win for him last week. Winner in the K&N Pro Series and in the Truck Series. Almost got to the Truck Series championship round last year. So disappointed. Doing it up this year.
You know, it just amazes me to hear these guys talk, because here he is coming to Daytona, but he spent the week with Chevy in the simulator doing road course stuff. You know what I mean? I mean, we only got road course experience twice a year when they dumped us at Rivers or at Sonoma, or dumped us at Watkins Glen, and now he's already that far ahead, which is pretty amazing. Michael Annette moves into second here with a lap of 181.6, but it amazes me the experience that they bring to the racetrack when they come. They've already run this race. You know, in his mind and in a simulator, William Byron has already run this race, so he feels comfortable coming here.
You beat me to the punch, because I was going to ask you, do you remember all the times in the simulator that you spent?
Yeah, tons of time.
Same amount of time I did, I think.
We called the simulator a foosball table when I was growing up. That's what we called it.
Kelly's with Tyler Reddick.
He's also coming off a career best finish of 3rd at Iowa. Tyler, what are your expectations here in qualifying at Daytona?
I don't have any, to be quite honest with you. You just never really know what you have. A lot of us really don't go out and make single car runs anymore, other than trying to just maybe find a little bit of speed for the race. So I really can't tell you what we're going to qualify. In the spring here for our first race at Daytona, we qualified 7th or 8th. So I would be surprised if we're in the top 12, but then again, a lot of people made their cars better, so I would be surprised if we're right on that cut line. So we'll just see where it shakes out. I know 5 laps into the race, wherever you start at this race, will be completely different. So hopefully we're going forward, or hopefully if we start at the front, we just stay there.
There you go. All right, thank you, Tyler Reddick. Dave?
I think it's the best philosophy there. If you do start in the front, just stay there. Keep them all behind you.
Yeah, and that's kind of what Brendan said. You know, when he was talking about qualifying, he's like, we don't have the slickest car. We have a car that has a little bit more drag. We think it's going to be slick. We think you're going to have to race. But if you can qualify up front, that's where you want to be. You want to be up front, be in front of everything, and be able to get some of those stage points.
Tracking behind that very fast lap of Blake Cook, still the best. DJ wondering if it's going to be topped.
You know, you talk about qualifying up front and staying up front. Now, that sounds like a simple plan, but it's really not, because there's a lot of work that you have to do to keep yourself up there. All it takes is basically maybe losing your concentration or not paying attention for just a second. You slip up a little bit. Next thing you know, there's 10, 12 cars going by you on the inside or the outside. You've got no help. Yeah. And where you thought that you were in good shape just riding around making laps, next thing you know, you're back in the middle of the pack where you didn't really want to be.
There's something else I was thinking about while we were looking at some of the racing action. When you're just quote-unquote riding around here, you're still getting buffeted by the air. I mean, they're not easy to drive. It's crazy.
There is no such thing as just riding around here. I know that sound, and we talk about it, and you hear drivers say it sometimes. But like Dale says, you can come through the tri-oval here, and you check the mirror, and you check in front of you, and then you get down to turn 1, and you're behind the guy in front of you, and the next thing you know, there's somebody on the outside of you. Now you're in the middle, and you go from 5th back to about 15th or 16th because this guy has created another lane because you just didn't pay attention for that split second getting in the corner. So there is no riding around. You're constantly checking the mirror, checking, feeling what the car's doing, and trying to put yourself in the best position if the guy in front of you makes a mistake to capitalize on that.
So Daniel Hemrick on track now in the 21 car. Blake Cook still at the top. And Parker, what are they thinking about down there?
Well, I'm walking down pit lane, and I run into the crew chief of Blake Cook, Chris Rice. You've obviously provided your driver a very fast race car there. Did you expect to have that kind of speed?
I didn't, because we put a lot of downforce in this car coming to Daytona, because, you know, at Talladega car we lost. But everybody at Colic Racing, I'm super proud of, because this group is just amazing. Best group on pit road. I love it. Glad to see you guys back, and I'm so excited for Xfinity race tonight here on your channel. I mean, Parker, you look good, because it's super hot out here, everybody. He's not even sweating. I'm like this.
I cannot attest that. It is full sweat under here, guys. Take it away from us here.
Oh, my God. It is very hot out there this afternoon. Everybody doing a great job staying with the heat, staying hydrated, as is Daniel Hemrick, second quick here at Daytona for the Kannapolis, North Carolina driver. We come back, more qualifying from Daytona. We'll keep you posted on who could maybe catch Blake Cook. Back at Daytona, glad you could join us here this afternoon as Mark Thompson finishes up his lap, his one lap of qualifying for tonight's 250. And Thompson will put that car in 16th position. It's a 40 of Timmy Hill warming up and getting as close as he can to that safer barrier to get the momentum.
And we saw Timmy in the, I think it was his second practice yesterday. He was one of the guys that went out and they ran in a group with 3 guys, Ray Black, Timmy Hill, a couple guys. And it's like Dale said and we were talking earlier, they were fast, a little bit faster than the 182 or 183 that's on the pole right now, but they were running in a pack. So this may be one of the first times that he's been out there by himself, because these guys were working on their pack stuff, and 3 cars is not much of a pack, but you still get a feel for what the car is going to do in a draft.
And, you know, you look at this from right now, from first down through the 17 cars that have qualified, you see about 6 miles per hour difference. But in a pack of racing, 6 miles per hour, you can hang on.
Yeah.
You know, if you have, especially if you have a car behind you that is able to push you, that helps you keep up and make that difference. That's why we talk about literally everybody that's here has an opportunity to get up and race in the pack and have a great night.
Car owner Carl Long would love to have one of his cars in victory lane. That would be very cool. So Timmy, 15th now of the 18 cars that have been on track. Just a little over 50 seconds. Talked to Justin Allgaier earlier. Says he had a black nose on his race car. He'll peek outside of Eric Almirola right there as the crash happens behind them. NASCAR would have loved to see them come back to the checkers under green, but to roll safety vehicles, they felt they needed to throw the caution right there. And at that moment, Eric Almirola in the 98 car was ahead. Disappointing, and you guys have had the highlights as well. Sometimes these spectacular highlights are shown over and over again for years to come, and unfortunately that's one of Justin's to relive.
Yeah, most of the time. I mean, you're not ever really happy with finishing second, but that's one of those that, hey, if I could have just had a few more feet, if that, you know, if they just pushed that button for the caution light just a split second later, I think he might have surged ahead at that point just by a couple of inches.
And as he said when they talked to him earlier, he still thinks about it. Yeah, those are the ones you think about. I'm sure we can stay here and talk to Dale. Yeah, he remembers the ones he won, but he remembers the ones that he lost that are painful. That's a painful one to lose right there.
He'll have a good shot tonight when they go racing for 250 miles. 7th, actually 8th for the 7 car of Allgaier right now.
Yeah, and looking at that, that tells me that Jason Burdett has put some downforce into that race car here. And he understands that Jason Smith coming down here a long time. He heard me harp on it because as he worked on our team at Robert Yates Racing about when you come back here for July, and Todd Parrott was really good at being able to do that, not take too much speed out of it, but give you something you can be aggressive with. That's the main thing. You want speed, but you have to have something you can be extremely aggressive with when it comes time to make those moves.
Local boy, 25-year-old Ben Kennedy from right here in Daytona Beach, Florida, in the 2 car for Richard Childress Racing this evening. And one of several starts in the Xfinity Series for Ben this year. Talked to his mom, Lisa, just as she was leaving the track yesterday, and he's being a good son. Took mom out to dinner last night.
Very nice.
I said, who's going to pay? And she said, well, of course he is now that he's a big-time Xfinity Series.
Goes to the top.
Hey, see, he's really big time. Another Richard Childress Racing car to the top. Of course, Blake Cook, owned by Matt Collig, but associated with Richard Childress. And to another team, how about Roush Fenway Racing, Parker?
Right, Ryan Reed down here, the past winner from Daytona earlier this year. You held off some Cup stars to be able to do that. That must give you great confidence. But you were just asking me, can I turn down the heat? Does that make you a little nervous for tonight?
Oh man, it's hot. I mean, number one, it's just brutal conditions to be in a race car. You're gonna do some sweating tonight, but then also a lot of grip loss. You know, it's this hot. Even after the sun goes down, it'll be hot and slick. So that'll be a factor. Just got to be mindful of that, you know, while we're racing. We got to get to the end of these things. All the races I've had success at, we've been really mindful of keeping the car in one piece. So, yeah, man, just going to watch the end of qualifying here on Xfinity X1. Hopefully we get a pole and we can start up front because that'd make our jobs a lot easier.
These teams hoping to get to the pole and try to replicate what they did earlier this year, get in victory lane, Dave.
Parker, it's so interesting to hear him say that. You know, he was a guy saving his race car and yet was aggressive enough at the end with the equipment to do it, to win the races. Joey Gates finishing up his qualifying lap. 16th for the driver from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, for Jimmy Means Racing. There's Ben Kennedy still slowing down. They shut it off right after the start finish. Why do they do that, GJ? Why do they shut it off?
Well, but they're taped up here, and certainly they don't want the engine running any hotter than what they have to. You know, that's looking ahead to tonight. Once this thing gets overheated, then there's a lot of problems that can occur. Plus, they want to get things cooled down as much as they can for the next round. That's
right. We got one more round coming. The top 12 will move on, and more than likely, Ben Kennedy will be a part of that with that fast lap. J.J. Yaley in the 14 car. You see tracking above Kennedy's by about 7/8 of a second.
Hey, KP, I have to go back a second and think about just listening to him talk about how hot it is today. Back to the day when we started this race or started the 400 at 11 a.m.
Yes.
And so you were racing in basically the heat of the day. And talk about a hot, slick racetrack and hot inside a race car.
Yeah. Those are the good old days there, Bert, in case you're wondering.
No, I'm telling you, I joined after you all, and this is one of the hottest races I've ever covered on a July weekend down here or a late June weekend. I'm telling you. It's not the heat, it's the humidity. Yeah, you know the old phrase. JJ finishes up. He is 19th. Last week, Iowa Speedway, as much fun as I've had watching at Iowa ever. Cars everywhere, and the one at the front at the end, William Byron, his first win in this series.
Yeah, they were racing all over that racetrack. That was great. I think, you know, in talking to some of them, part of it had to do with the truck race the night before. The groove moved up and got some rubber down there, and the tire that they had, the less downforce that they have in the cars now. So a lot of factors that put in a very entertaining race to watch.
Byron on the clock now, going for 2 in a row. Already in the playoffs with that win last week, trying to shore it up with some more stage wins for playoff points, or perhaps a race win for even more.
But you know, and we've seen it in the Cup Series with three new first-time winners this year. There's something about a race with a first-time winner. It makes it so flippin' exciting. You're like, okay, now we've seen these guys break in. Now what are they going to do? And I think Byron obviously through the Truck Series and into this series, already being a winner in the Xfinity Series as he slots in third there. Has a bright future.
Good lap for William. And I'm thinking about this now as we see this. The bumping has started, obviously, for round number 2. You see the cut line there on the left. Garrett Smithley, the next in jeopardy there, along with teammate Harrison Rose. Can you save anything, DJ, in this type of qualifying format where, as we showed earlier, you're matted to the floor the entire time around the track, or are you?
No.
Okay.
Everything you got right here. You know, it doesn't make any difference. You know that everybody's going to be wide open. You get all that you can from that. And so there's no holding back here. The tires aren't going to give up enough that it's going to make any difference. Everybody's going to be able to run wide open.
Tyler Reddick is on track now. We talked to him a little earlier. Byron having shut off and coasting all the way around now through the middle of turn 3 and 4. There's Reddick. High on the banking, gaining speed. Tyler, one of the California-born drivers, joining this now national series. There was a time when Daytona was the center of it and the Southeast was the center of the sport, and eventually they went west, and you all were a part of that. You remember that, Kyle?
Yeah, I remember that. We didn't want any drivers to come back here, but we just wanted to go to West, man.
Buy boots and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, we had our own little world here. You know what I mean? Everybody from the Southeast, we're going to run some Cup races. We're going to run some NASCAR races down here. You guys don't need to come down here. But it has been amazing. Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon, Tyler Reddick. I mean, we can go Kevin Harvick. So many guys have come from the West Coast that have come back to dominate this form of racing. Kyle Larson right now is just turning everybody's head.
So Reddick in the Chip Ganassi Racing number 42, sharing that ride at times this season with Cup driver Kyle Larson. Bring it down toward the double yellow line there. Remember, later tonight that line will be very important. You can't go down there to make forward progress. And you see Reddick's time just 0.2 beyond Ben Kennedy's fast lap, which remains at the top. He is, however, in the top 12 in 7th position. Bumping has started. Smithley is out. Reddick is in. Ray Black Jr. in the 07 brings it down below the yellow lines, having completed his lap. 15th for Ray. He was quickest in final practice yesterday afternoon. Just a handful of cars went out, but he got in the draft. Did a good job with the 07. Another one of the Florida drivers in the field here this evening. Here's a Virginia guy who definitely knows how to race at Daytona. We talked about him in the Open. DJ reminded us how good he is at this. Bad luck can always come upon you here at Daytona, but has been very good at putting that one car in the right place at the right time. And in qualifying, of course, it's right down near that double yellow line.
Yeah, Elliott does a good job of keeping himself up front, out of trouble most of the time. But all it takes, as we saw, is just, one a little more than too aggressive of a bump draft, and the next thing you know, you're sideways. There's nothing you can do as a driver in that type of situation, and your day is ruined.
As KP was mentioning it earlier, wrecking on the straightaway. It does happen. Where's the right side and where's the correct side, I should say, and where's the incorrect side to push with or to bump with?
Yeah, neither side. You want it right in the back. If you get hit at either one of the sides, then that just moves your car in a way that you're not anticipating. As Kyle pointed out, this is going down the straightaway. You're trying to hold the steering wheel straight going there, and any movement is so abrupt and happens so quickly that you don't have any opportunity to try to correct it.
Shuts her down 5th for Elliott Sadler. And well, we don't know if he'll move on yet. Again, bumping as his teammate Justin Allgaier is now on the cut line in the 7 car. And Brennan Poole coming to green for Chip Ganassi Racing in the number 48.
Yeah, we see, his teammate's car, Reddick, is 8th. And talking to him, he was on NASCAR America earlier this week. And it was funny talking to he and then talking to Matt Tiff. Matt Tiff still was talking about how fast this place was and coming down here like it was February. Brennan was talking about it like it's a short track. I got to get this thing to handle. It could be hot and slick. So I think the opportunity to be with Ganassi Racing, to understand where those guys are, and to have run some races on the Speedway and run here in July, he understands how this place has got to be a handling track. So, yes, obviously he's going to have speed, but I don't think he's going to have pole speed in this car.
We haven't mentioned it yet, but a Goodyear tire that is new to these teams this weekend and designed primarily to add stability in the pack racing. It's a little bit softer compound. Dale, what have you heard about it? Because the Goodyear folks say, well, the whole idea was to give them a little bit more control when they're all bunched together.
Yeah, and when you first think of it, you think, okay, they put a softer tire, we're going to see a ton more wear. Well, Goodyear's smarter than that. They're not going to have them completely wearing out to where they get in a position that things could happen or make these cars undrivable. Just, you don't want them to drive good and okay for 25 to 30 laps whenever you know they're going to have to go more than that. And so I think what I've heard from the drivers so far is that the car does feel good. They're not sure how much better that's going to be in the track as they get in these type of situations, because it gets to feeling really good, then the next thing you know, they're 3 wide, and then we know what happens from that point.
Chaos could ensue. Good ride along here with Scott Lagasse Jr., the 26 car this weekend for JGL Racing. And just holding the wheel as steady as possible through there.
That thing never changed pitch from the time we started hearing that in. I mean, you never heard it. And you see him just reach up, he mashes the clutch and cuts it off all at the same time with a clean cut, knocks it in neutral, and then comes back in, like Dale says, so it doesn't overheat, because these things are all taped off.
Lagasse just misses the cut line there. He'll not be in the final round, but he'll be in tonight's race. Another one of the Florida drivers you'll see in action here tonight. Conyers, Georgia driver Chris Cockrum finishes up his run. It'll be his 4th start at Daytona. In tonight's race, we welcome you back to Daytona International Speedway, the world center of racing, and no one knows that better than Eric Jones, a young man who dreamed about racing at stock cars' highest levels for a long time from his home in Michigan, and he has made it there now in the Monster Energy Series and also running quite a few races for Joe Gibbs Racing in this Xfinity Series.
I certainly think it's for young drivers that don't have a ton of experience in this type of racing, because it is so different, to be able to get that opportunity to see what the drafting's like. Because even though the cars are different in some respects, the drafting, the techniques, the things that you learn do carry over from tonight's Xfinity race into the Cup race tomorrow night.
It's the voice of Matt Lucas on the other end of that radio transmission, asking immediately for a water temperature, DJ. They want to know what they're dealing with.
Yes, exactly.
Because he's going to go to round 2. Well, he hopes he's going to go to round 2. 10th right now.
It's going to be close as to whether that'll do it.
Mm-hmm. His teammate Matt Tifft on the track right now. We've told his story many times. We'll document it again another time tonight and count down to green. This race last year, he was not in the race car he was supposed to be in. He was recovering from emergency brain surgery that was discovered while he was taking care of a back issue. The doctor said, we need to get you back in here, look at things a little bit further. And he made a miraculous recovery to come back and race later in the year.
That he did. And miraculous is a great word, because he is a phenomenal young man.
Now very much about the cause of getting young people and old people alike to go check and get checked, and make sure you interface with your physicians and find out what's going on so you can take care of issues. Tifft 4th in the 19 car. That's a big disparity between him and Jones, teammates.
That is a solid run. He's got some speed in that car.
Yeah, just he's 4th, a 10th off of what the fast time is. This has become so much like what we used to see short track racing. Still do see short track racing, of just how close it is. Our top 11 are within less than 0.3 of a second of each other.
On board with Joey Logano. Our man Otto Bolden not in the car with him right now, but doing a lot of hanging out with Joey this weekend. Getting to know NASCAR. New to our broadcast team. Not new to fast cars, he's a fan, but new to NASCAR and taking our fans there every chance he gets. The former Olympic sprinter, a fast learner in this world. Joey shuts it down, and it will be 3rd quick. Good lap. So the Team Penske driver coasts around back to the garage area. We'll cool it down for round 2. More qualifiers trying to bump their way in. Back at Daytona, Dakota Armstrong coming out of turn number 4 toward the tri-oval and the start-finish line to complete his lap. It's not going to be quick enough to get himself into the top 12. And Dakota will shut it down. The Newcastle, Indiana driver who had another top 5 at Iowa last week. I think that race he ran in the Joe Gibbs racing car set him up for future results there. Yeah. Gave him confidence.
Yeah, confidence and knowledge of what the car's, really supposed to feel like, what he's looking for in the car, where maybe he hadn't found that exactly before.
Here's Ryan Reed. Spoke to him earlier, showed you his highlights. Now it's down to business. Putting that 16 car as low as he can through the air and toward a possible up front starting position. In the middle of first round qualifying, actually getting toward the end here now. 12 will go on to compete for the final round and see what the starting order is up front.
It looks like he's going to be inside that top 12 here now. If you're 3/10 off the pole, you're sitting outside the top 12 right now.
And here he comes, checking against Kennedy's time. And he will be 8th.
Knocks Eric Jones out, the Gibbs Toyota. And remember, when we started this qualifying, we start from the slowest to the fastest, so these guys should be a little bit faster. But that's a little bit strange, too, because as we talked, some of these guys had gone out and run in a draft, and as we get down to the last couple of cars, we'll have Cole Custer and Gallagher, who were both in a wreck on their second lap on the racetrack and are back in their in backup cars.
Here's Daniel Suarez in the 18, the Monterrey, Mexico driver. Xfinity Series reigning champion, has a nice ring to it, and he did a fine job last November at Homestead Miami Speedway. Down to the final 4, pressure was on, and he came through.
The pressure was on, and I'm telling you, as we watch him come down to the green here, here's a kid, and I think Dale and I watched, and you watched him run that first 6 months that he was in this Gibbs car, and it's like, man, the light switch needs to go off at some point in time. He's got to get and understand what's going on. And all of a sudden, we got to this race. We got halfway through his first year in the Xfinity Series, and it was like the switch went off, and he learned how to race, and he got better and better. And we watched him last year get better with every race. And come back to win the championship. But it was phenomenal to watch his progression once he understood what it took to run up front and win an Xfinity race.
Daniel carrying some of the celebration of the weekend. NASCAR saluting the country, of course, and on the deck lid of Daniel's car, the 101st Airborne celebrating 75 years of existence. And one of the cool things they're going to do is have 2 service members down there, one in vintage uniform from 1942 and one in current day. In fact, during Countdown to Green, I'll be down there and meet these folks and give you a look at how the uniforms have changed a little bit. I can tell you, I think they're both going to be hot,
yes.
But it should be a stark contrast. And of course, Daniel carrying their logo on the deck lid. Catch all the action of NASCAR on NBC with the NBC Sports app. You can get closer, you can get alternate camera angles, driver stats, and track information. It's easy, it's the app. Put it on your device now. It's on all of mine. It comes in handy sometimes, Don't have the station, or you're, somewhere where you don't have a TV. I do. You're looking at me like I don't do it.
No, I do know you do it. I know you do it.
There was never a doubt.
No, never a doubt.
Yeah, Dave and technology. It can bite me sometimes, but I do love it. Here's a young'un that understands technology. Ty Dillon in the 3-car this weekend for Richard Childress. Pop, and hoping to get into round number 2. Again, clocking against the fastest car so far in round 1. That's Ben Kennedy. He's not going to do it. Right now, a couple of teammates up there, and I suppose within the team, DJ, if we went around to them, we'd find out that they might be tuning just a little bit differently for slipstream versus handling? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt. There's probably everybody within the organization gets together, and then the crew chiefs make their decisions with talking to their drivers a little bit from that point. And so all it takes is just a little bit, and you find a tenth of a second that's difference in them, and that's the difference in right now being in the round of 12 and not being there.
Ty Dillon cooling it down on the backstretch. Now, again, the top 12 on your left there are in. Brendan Gaughan is the one who is most in jeopardy right now. Cut line being right before that, right after that. And so Reddick is out. And there's Brendan sitting on the edge there with his team, just waiting to see what might happen next. So on track, Casey Mears in the 98 car coming to the green flag. This is the car that won last year, albeit with Eric Almirola at the wheel. Talked to Casey yesterday in practice, heard from him, I'll say, and very confident about this group, what they do with the race car, and obviously with the win last year, you should be.
There's no doubt, and Eric Almirola winning earlier this year at Talladega, so it's very capable and in good, capable hands.
Yes.
Casey Mears, very, very good plate racer, so we should see this car and driver perform very well tonight. Might not make the top 12 here, but I don't think that it's the qualifying side of it that's always been their strong suit. They seem to have a car that their drivers, and in particular Eric Almirola, can really be aggressive with when it comes to that time.
Casey coming to the line now, part of the Mears gang. I remember when Casey started in the Xfinity Series in the 66 car and got his feet wet. He knew he was going to be fast, and he's hung around quite a while in NASCAR, and as you said, does a great job. So thankfully for Casey, there were no issues yesterday as he got out in practice. For others, that was not the case. And it was very early on for the 23 of Spencer Gallagher trying to get down out of the way because he had a left rear tire going down.
Yeah, it's not like you can just stop and pull over, you know, and say, I need you. You have to get slowed down from going, close to 190 miles an hour at the end of the straightaway there, and you have a left rear tire going down. Makes it very, very difficult and unfortunate for these two drivers.
Yeah, we saw him move over out of the way, and he moves over out of the way to about 170 miles an hour. You know what I mean? The tire is still flat at 170 miles an hour, and you saw him just work it up the bank and then come around on him. And those cars were spread out enough that it was only a two-car accident. But it was Spencer Gallagher, and it was Cole Custer was involved in that. And those two guys, their teams did a great job of unloading those backups, getting those backups through inspection, and at least getting them back on the racetrack in the second practice for a lap or so.
Spencer taking the green now in that backup car, trying to put it in the field for GMS Racing. Parker?
Well, I found a driver who's hoping he doesn't get into the top 12. That's Michael Annett, who's currently 11th right now. Good speed in this car. I believe it's the same car you had at Daytona and Talladega earlier this year. You've been very confident, but you mentioned the heat. Are you planning for the night?
Yeah. We always know it's going to be hot and humid here, but I'm really hoping I'm not sitting here sweating my butt off here and we get knocked out and be 13th and sit out here for an hour for no reason. So hopefully we get to make it to that next round and stay in the top 12. It's going to be close. There's about two more cars we're looking at that have a good shot at beating us. But no, this is just the driver can't really take too much credit for how you qualify here at Daytona. It's just a testament to the guys at the shop, the guys sitting here next to me, and Hendrick Engine. So we got a really fast car that was running second at the white flag here in February with half the nose missing. So if we can keep all the fenders on it tonight, hopefully we got a good shot at it.
Looks like you held them off. That's a good thing, right?
Yeah, I get stay out here for another half hour and sweat.
A lot of sweat equity being put down here by Michael Annett, guys.
Parker, we're keeping you down there for a very good reason as well. More people to talk to as we get through round number 1, moving on to the final round. Here's that other backup car that was rolled out. You saw Cole Custer kind of staring at it, had to be in his mind, just shaking his head, thinking, hey, practice hadn't even hardly started, and I'm already sitting here just watching it.
Yeah, I think they got this car out for one lap in that final session, maybe was all, and
he didn't like it. Well, I shouldn't say that. We thought maybe he didn't like it because he brought it right back in, but why mess with it, right?
Yeah. And listen, they obviously, when they unloaded this backup car, they had a lot of work to do. They talked about him working on the seat. They had to work on the car. They took their time. They got it back out there. Then you really just want to run a lap sometimes just to make sure nothing's leaking. Yeah. And that everything's sealed up good and everything's tight. And that appears to be what they were. But that's a pretty solid lap for only having one lap on that car. That's a really good lap for that team.
And is this a place where, because of the aerodynamics involved, when you bring, quote unquote, your best car, it really is kind of hands far above the second best car?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, for most of these teams, you put so much time and effort into building one of those. You don't have time, especially in this series, unless and I don't know there's anybody down there that has an unlimited budget for this series. So you can't afford to take that time and spend that money to do that with a backup car. You just have to make it the best you can off of what you learned with that first one and go from there.
Fastest time yesterday was put down by a Burton, Jeb Burton. Nephew of Jeff, son of Ward.
Good lap going here. Pretty fast race car he's got.
Another one showed it yesterday in the pack, showing it now individually.
He's one of the few that's been in the green going into turn one that we've seen over the last little bit. Losing a little time here. It looked like it bottomed out a little bit. And he said yesterday that the trailer arms drug a little bit in that first practice. And they were going to have to work on that. And he really didn't run anymore after that first practice.
17th. So did lose a little bit.
Yes.
So Burton will start this race for sure. Doesn't look like he's going to be maybe as quick as he thought he would, but a good run for the JGL Racing bunch in the 24 car. There's the heat. There are the palm trees. It's gorgeous, but it is sultry out there this afternoon. There's Michael Annette's car. Talked to him a minute ago, and he indeed will make it to round two. Weekend of racing here at Daytona on the NBC family of networks. Tonight, 7:30 Eastern, NBCSN. It's the Xfinity Series Coca-Cola Firecracker 250 telecast presented by Subway. And then tomorrow on NBC, the Monster Energy Cup Series, the Coke Zero 400 coverage begins at 7 Eastern. Thanks to our pilot for letting everyone in the grandstands know and remind them. Here's the field 13th through 40th for tonight's racing action. Anybody stand out to you there in terms of surprises not making the final round?
I would say Eric Jones. I mean, you expect the Gibbs cars to always be fast, but starting 14th, he'll be fine.
33 of Brandon Jones, the RC car that didn't make it into that group there. And then Justin Allgaier, 25th, another, but a little bit of a surprise.
Yeah, I think so. I think I expected him to be a little bit better than that. But you know what? And Dell and I spoke about it, and we talked about it earlier in this qualifying session. Blake Cook went out 10th or 11th, and he ended up second. And the gap really from first or second to the back of this pack never got any farther. It's 5 or 6 miles an hour. If you're 5 or 6 miles an hour off, you can draft your way into this race.
Fastest and into round two, and leading that charge will be an RCR car driven by Ben Kennedy. Kelly's caught up with him.
He got the job done there in round one. One more shot at it to get the pole here at Daytona. Do you feel like the two-car has it in it?
Yeah, I think the Ream Camaro has been fast so far this weekend, and it is faster in the first round, so may have a little more left. I know everybody's going to step it up this second round, so we'll see what it's got.
Sure, you don't want to put the cart before the horse, but what would it mean, though, to pick up that pole here at a place like Daytona?
It'd be really special. We started on the pole once, but it wasn't an official pole because qualifying rained out, went off practice speed. So to get that official pole at Daytona would be so special. I mean, this is my hometown, born and raised here. So I always love coming back to this track. I always love coming as a fan, but it's even cooler being a race car driver and especially being behind the wheel of a fast car. So we'll give it our best shot.
All right, one more lap to get it done, Parker.
A little more on Ben Kennedy. He said it's his hometown, that is for sure. He's grown up in the family business. Great-grandson of Big Bill France, and he's a learner. He likes to ask questions and know what he can know, DJ.
Yeah, he sure does. Nice young man, but as you said, he doesn't just sit there and go off of who he is. He wants to do this, so he's had to learn to do that. Even though he grew up around the racetrack, he might not necessarily have been around these cars and how to make everything happen, KP, but he asks the right questions and works extremely hard.
Yeah, growing up around a racetrack and growing up around race cars are two entirely different things. And he has had to work hard and understand what the cars are, understanding the mechanical side of it, running New Smyrna, running local short tracks, doing things like that. He's come along just like the rest of these guys have with his experience base and run the truck series. And as he said, yeah, he was on a pole here one time, but can you imagine being Ben Kennedy and sitting on the pole at a speedway that your grandfather built, and that your great-grandfather built, and your grandfather was a part of, and your family's been a part of. That's got to be an amazing feeling.
And you see, he does not go far from understanding what really drives this sport, signing a couple of autographs before he heads down to get back to his number 2 car. Driving the 11 this weekend, once again, Blake Cook, and Parker's caught up with him.
He's hoping to hold off Ben Kenny from getting that pole at the speedway his grandfather built. You were second in this first round. You sat on the pole at Talladega, but in a different car. But I got to talk to your crew chief, Chris Rice, for a second, and he said he was surprised by the speed because you'd put some downforce in this race car. Are you surprised by the speed you guys have shown?
No, I'm not surprised at the speed. Man, our leaf filter gutter protection Chevy is always fast at these super speedways. And my guys work so hard. They're so good. And I just love it for them, man, to have fast race cars. They can walk around proud. And it's cool for me being from Florida and born in Daytona. If I get the pole here and win the race, that means so much. But I wouldn't be here without leaf filter gutter protection. Thank everybody there. Xfinity X1 on their service. You guys are going to cover it amazing with that camera. I'm super excited to rewatch this race, but I got to go race it first.
And as we look ahead to tonight, it is hot, could be potentially pretty slick. There may be some tire wear. You guys said you put some downforce. Are you confident this car in the draft is going to have a similar speed?
I am, man. I mean, even with our Talladega car that was, really, really fast, it drafted really well. And this car is even more stable by itself than Talladega car was, and it's still fast. So I have high expectations. I think it's going to be a good piece in qualifying and in the race, so I'm excited.
Speed and stability, Dave. That's a good combination.
And Parker, I'm not worried about him in the heat after he tweeted out that old photo of him from a couple of years ago roofing here in Florida. I know Blake Cook can handle it. Hey, if you want breaking news, race highlights, updated standings, and much more delivered to your inbox, you need to get the NASCAR newsletter. Never miss a story, a highlight, by subscribing to the official NASCAR newsletter, NASCAR.com/newsletter to sign up today. Back with a final round from Daytona. 4th title in 5 years. And a lot of cycling in NASCAR these days. A lot of riders out there.
Yes, there is. Our own Steve Letarte.
Heard that this morning, right?
Did you hear that?
Early.
Yes.
Hey, I know at least Sadler, Kelly, he at least does the stationary bike because he told me about that. I don't know about the road bike. Kelly?
Elliott Sadler, 10th after that first round of qualifying. Elliott, what was your strategy here with car setup? Are you guys going for speed to get a shot at that pole, or are you thinking more downforce for the race?
We're thinking more for the race. I mean, that's kind of what pays the money, and my guys are doing a great job. Good engines from Hendrick, and guys at the Junior Motorsports Shop gave me a good Armor Foods Chevy. So it's all about being able to draft and be aggressive tonight, and that's all we're really worried about. Where we start at is kind of no big deal. We already got our pit selection from last week's qualifying, so we're just looking forward to being aggressive tonight.
Yeah, aggressive has been the name of the game in these Xfinity Series races, especially as you come to the end of stages. So what's kind of your strategy or mindset? Are you a guy that wants to be up front, potentially ahead of it, or hang back?
Well, we got a pretty good point cushion, so we're going to try to be aggressive, stay up front. Let's try to get some bonus points, and we did that in Daytona. Here the first race, we got us some good stage wins and bonus points. Then we got wrecked, and we really didn't fall too far behind. So we're going to try to be aggressive tonight and stay up front. But I do want to say 2 things. DJ, it's good to have you back. Congratulations to Zach. My son wants a Baltimore Orioles jersey. And we just watched, me and a friend of mine just watched Unscripted with Kyle Petty. Awesome show. Fans need to see that. It's, I've always liked Kyle, been a friend of his, but the way to see him open up like that was pretty inspirational, pretty cool. So I think fans should definitely check that out.
Yeah, it was very insightful indeed. Good luck in round 2. Thank you, Elliott. Parker.
Thanks, Kelly. And I've got Matt Tiffs with me here. He was 5th in the first round, showing great speed in this Toyota Camry. Can you keep it up in this next round?
I think so. We put a lot of work in since the other restricted plate tracks this year, so proud of my team for getting our NBC Universal Comcast Military Camry a little bit faster this time around. Makes it easier to be on the front side of the pack when we start these races, but just really proud to be a part of this whole deal we got with Comcast, bringing the 3rd Infantry Division out of Fort Stewart, Georgia tonight to see the race, and just so cool to be a part of this whole Comcast Military Camry here tonight, so hopefully qualify up front and keep it up there all night.
You mentioned the race later tonight. You've got the speed in qualifying. Not many got to draft or do much drafting yesterday and kind of figure out what their cars are doing in the draft. You have a little bit of trepidation, knowing it's hot, it's slick, there's tire wear maybe as you go into the race.
Yeah, this is the, I've never ran the July nighttime restricted plate race. I ran here in a truck one time at night, but that's about all I got here for nighttime races. And obviously it's a lot cooler back there in February. So we'll see. I'm sure we're going to be slipping, sliding a lot, but just got to be smart. Keep our nose out of trouble. It's pretty wild back here in the spring, so hopefully get out of here and get a good finish.
And Dave, as always, with this car and this paint scheme, we love that peacock on the front.
We do, and on the Peacock, whenever there's a race at Daytona, we never stop talking about it, at least for the first 2 or 3 days, on NASCAR America. 5 Eastern all week and continuing on weekdays at 5 for the foreseeable future. Make sure you check in with all of our analysts who were here, talk about it, and break it down for you every weekday at 5. Welcome back to Daytona, just about ready to start the final round of Xfinity Series qualifying. And they had a 10-minute break in which they could, maybe as Ben Kennedy suggested, step it up on him just a little bit. DJ, what can they do to the cars?
Basically very little, but you wonder, since they're all going wide open, as we talked about, what can they do to find something? So they're going to able to put a little bit more tape on the front if they want to step that up a little bit. They can adjust the air pressures, and they could cool the engines back down so they can get them cool where they can put that extra little bit of tape, which basically, Kyle, is the only thing you can do for speed.
Yeah, I would think the tape would be the only thing that you could find some speed. Cooling it back down is going to get you right back to where you were when you went out to make that first run. And, air pressure, things like that. You've already got a lap or so on the tires, an in and out lap. So tape's about it.
Yeah, and one thing that may make them run a little faster besides that is that, okay, they're able to cool back down, but the parts that were the rear end, the transmissions that were cool before, now that stuff is heated up, so that could translate into a little more speed.
Joey Logano standing by there with a very fast Team Penske Ford Mustang. While on track, Brendan Gaughan talked to us about heat and downforce just a little bit earlier. There's a lot of the former. He'd like a little bit of the latter to be able to handle that 62 car in the pack.
But it's just that fine balance, and we talk about it all the time. You put downforce in, that creates drag, so your speed goes away. You want the speed, so you give up the downforce, and then you get in the race, and your car doesn't drive good. And we talk about this race, and we heard Matt Tiff say, even though it's night, it's going to be slick, it's going to be hot. This is just going to be one of those days.
There's a 10th faster for Brendan Gaughan, so that's exactly what we're talking about. If you're able to pick up something here, maybe others had everything they could get that very first time.
This morning, we spoke with NASCAR to make sure we had everything clear for tonight's race. Parker, one of the things that they don't want the competitors to do is lock bumpers with each other, but Joey always seems to get real close. Did he tell you his secrets down there?
Right, Dave. I asked him, I said, hey, bud, everyone here that I talk to brings up the fact that you're able to tap, tap, tap against the bumper in front of you, but not get caught with a tandem drafting because there is a space between the bumper. I said, so what do you do? And he started to give me a little bit of an explanation, and then he said, whoa, wait. I'm not telling you my secrets, which I can understand, I guess.
He remembered that you're not just a driver, you're also on television, and everyone's listening. But it's a fun thing to watch and hard to officiate for NASCAR. They don't want them locked on because they don't want to get that tandem situation. But some are good at getting real close.
Yeah, and Joey is outstanding to the point that they have to go back and look sometimes, and they find it hard to believe that he is helping that much, getting that close, but never locking on. And so Joey has perfected that.
Annette's about a 10th, Michael Annette's about a 10th slower than Gaughan, but in second right now. But it is amazing is they don't want you to lock, but you can tap. And Joey has just, and it was amazing listening to Wayne talk about it, to say, we look at it and he's tapping. Yeah. He's not locked on, and we show it to other drivers, and other drivers are amazed that Joey is that good at getting by with it and doing it because he's not breaking the rules. Everything he's doing is inside the rules that they lay out.
The series director Wayne Otten says there's usually a line at his office after the race, and he proves it to him with videotape evidence.
There's Sadler on the track. Michael Annette was 2 1/1000ths of a second slower than what he ran the first time. So, that's obviously you're wide open. You're trying to do the exact same thing that you did, and hopefully the car or something changed just a little bit for you.
Well, not a cloud. There are some clouds out there, but they're not going to get over the speedway here. So ambient temperature still hot, and having already put some heat in those motors, they're definitely warmed up compared to when they first took the green in round 1.
Nice lap for Elliott.
That was good.
Yeah, that's a 10th and a half pickup.
Good job, guys.
Yeah.
And again, the adjustments we talked about, little tape, little air pressure, and What was the third one?
And that's
down.
But that's a big pickup. A tenth and a half is a big pickup between the first and the second, and especially since he said they were concerned more with racing than they were with speed.
Yeah, but still not fast enough. It's just under a tenth slower than what Ben Kennedy ran in his first effort.
Two-time Daytona winner in the Xfinity Series, Ryan Reed. He is just over now and not going the right direction as he heads down the backstretch. Fourth of 12 to go out. Kennedy will be last because he was quickest in round number 1. Nicely through 3 and 4 once again.
Always great to come here after you've won in February because you're the only driver that can sweep.
Yeah.
So, you know, you have that one thing, that little bit of extra, not that you need any more motivation coming to race at Daytona.
Well, he knows how to get to victory lane. Park it there and celebrate with everyone around him. That'll be fourth quick right now.
And this, you know, you talk about sweeping at a place, and sweeping at a place like Daytona, incredibly hard.
Yeah.
Because it's two different races. I mean, we talk about one being a speed race and one being a handling. It is incredibly tough to come to this place and be the end-all in February and come back and be that guy again in July.
I think I'm right in saying that in the Cup Series, it's only happened 5 times over the years. And you think just about all the opportunities that were there, and that's how difficult, incredibly difficult it can become. Surviving 400 miles is hard.
Well, and I think more so these days. I think the pack is a little bit different than in days past, right? So it's not simply a matter of how well you can do, but what happens around you.
Yeah, you got to be really good and extremely lucky.
Yep. Suarez has been both. Went to a championship in this series last year. Unwinds the wheel just a little bit as he comes out of turn 4. Again, that beautiful sound of the motor that doesn't change pitch much at all.
Wow.
Suarez is going to be second. You're wowing by how close that was.
I'm wowing by how close. Where Elliott Sadler run a 49.371, and Suarez runs a 49.374. This is short track qualified.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't usually see this kind of qualify or that close at places like this.
Yeah, the only difference at a short track, you go back in your mind and you say, oh, I could have got that much. Those 3 1,000s, I could have made that up. Here, I don't think you can say that. That's you do what you do. Yeah, as a driver here qualifying, there's not really, you can't really take any credit for what happens, but if you don't run well, you possibly can take some of the blame because of things didn't get up to speed right, or maybe too much wheel in the center of the corner.
Yeah, that's a great comment, because it's like you can't really help them, but you can dang sure hurt them. You can hurt a team, and we heard, you know, Michael Annett say, this is about the teams. This is pride in the teams, pride in the cars that they build, that they can come down here and sit on the pole, because the driver's job is just to get it back around the racetrack as smoothly as possible.
Poole goes to the top. Wow, he did his job right, or didn't screw it up, right?
Yes,
yeah, they made great adjustments.
Nice work, bud. 49.19.
Big pickup for him.
You almost heard in the voice there a little surprise. Nice pickup, bud. Hey, 39 or 49.19. It was like, oh my gosh, where did that come from? But that's an impressive lap.
And of course, we mentioned all the work that goes into these cars ahead of time. Chassis that gets certified early on by NASCAR, and then the body building on top of these cars, and then the trips to the wind tunnel and the massaging. And oh, by the way, let's recheck it again to make sure it's within tolerances of NASCAR. And oh, could we pick up a little bit over here? The back and forth, a lot of hours by everyone back home before it ever goes on the truck.
Oh, absolutely. And you'll find things in the wind tunnel that you realize, hey, this is good. This did not hurt us as far as downforce goes, but it did great on the drag side of it. Now, is that something that we can get through technical inspection?
Hemrick has so far and will be taking it to the line here in the red. He's not going to be better than Poole. 26-year-old from Kannapolis is going to be currently, though, second.
Good lap.
It's a very good lap.
It is truly amazing how much time these teams spend with speedway cars. With the cars they run at Daytona in February for that race, when they come back in July for the Talladega races. It is a game of thousands, and you just got to constantly massage, constantly be on top of it, and it is truly it is an honor for a team to come down here and be the fastest car. Even though we hear so many drivers saying qualify is not important, it's not when it comes to the race part. But to the team and that pride that team takes in that car, it is important.
That's a preview for the fans a little bit. Tonight, if these cars should happen to get dinged up, the 5-minute clock to repair is in place. We talked with NASCAR a little bit about that this morning. There are some pieces that they will require the teams to put back on. They'll make them put back on before they go back out. But it's not like the old days where you can have a bunch of parts behind the wall, body parts, and remake it into a better race car.
All right, look at his hand out the window here. He held his hand out the window the whole time. There is a theory that if you hold your hand there, you're taking some of the air off the spoiler. It's an aero thing. A little bit, and you see guys do it. You see guys do it. Whether that's factual, whether that's urban legend, you know what I mean? I have no idea. You know, I mean, I don't know of a lot of teams that put a guy in a car and set him in a wind tunnel and said, "Here, hold your hand out the window and let's try." But I'm not saying it hadn't been done. I'm not saying it hadn't been done.
How about that mannequin hand that you put in the wind tunnel? And you know, right?
That could be. How about that hand with the solo cup you put in the wind tunnel? No, that's a whole nother story. Never mind.
That's a different tunnel.
That's a different wind tunnel.
And it gets dark. William Byron, the most recent series winner, on the backstretch now, clocking just outside the pole speed of Brennan Poole.
Yeah, you look at this list and this lineup so far and who's coming up, the potential of the names, not that they're not very good, but not of a lot of experience maybe here racing at Daytona in the Xfinity Series right up front in the start of this. So a lot of potential for a fun and interesting start to this race as William Byron clocks in second.
And that's just it with these young drivers. They are brave, they are aggressive, but there is a lot of, I've already said it, precision that goes on within that pack that they have to learn.
Hey, there is that, but you know, as you speak to these young drivers and you hear them talk in interviews and things, the thing that they have figured out in watching back races as they've tried to learn what they need to do, they see that aggression pays off in a lot of different ways. Now, it also can get you in a lot of trouble, but if you're not aggressive, then you're not ever really in that position to be able to capitalize at the end.
Joey Logano on track now in the 22 car. Been to victory lane already this year in the series. And let's see how he looks going down the backstretch. Getting close. And you see he's getting some cool fresh air in the cockpit there as well. No, DJ
That's
pointing
hot
out
in there.
Yeah, exactly. No, actually Parker mentioned that to us in break a little while ago and reminded us that there is perhaps a little advantage there, and DJ explained it very well. Kick a little more air, whether it's factual or not, off that rear spoiler.
And we see Joey doing it in a straight line. I think we saw Mac Tiff do it all the way through the corner. I mean, he came through the corner driving with one hand. So, and they're probably, obviously there is something there. Parker he's not going to lead us down a wrong road.
Joey shuts it down. Of course, Team Penske looking for their first win in the Xfinity Series here at the Daytona International Speedway. And Logano will try to bring that to the captain tonight. Blake Cook, the last two more to go, second to last. He'll see what he can do. Already looking good. He's very close. Let's see where he picks up or might lose a little bit just coming off the corner. Trying to look at the flags. Just a little bit of wind out there right now, really blowing from the backstretch toward our position here high above the start-finish line. So it's more of a crosswind. I don't know what that would do for him, EJ.
No, shouldn't affect too much there. You can see that he kind of he lost those 300 or 400 there, and it's kind of stuck right there. Lost a little bit on the exit of turn 4 there, but still a very solid run.
Yeah.
Going to be a little quicker than his first time, but still not going to be fast enough for the pole.
And he will line up third unless Ben Kennedy can drop him back a little bit. There's Poole right now. A little nervous pacing for him.
We said a little quicker, and it was literally a 100th of a second.
So that is a little quicker.
I agree with that assessment.
Good lap. There's a little excitement here.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I mean, the fastest guy, and here he is in the green as we head up into turn 1.
And going the right direction. Look at that ticker.
Yeah, the thing is, if you don't start off in the green, you're probably not going to get back to the green. There's nothing you can really do there. So you have to get that good start and making the track as big as possible getting your car up to speed. And It's not like close here.
Not like Days of Thunder, grab a gear.
That's right. Yeah. There's no overdrive here to kick into.
That's right. Oh, it's right on the line. Ben Kennedy as he goes into turn 3. Can he score the Xfinity Series pole here at his home racetrack of Daytona Beach? Now through 3 and 4, it's clocking away from the pole. And it's going to keep going that way. Doesn't look as if he's going to do it, but he'll be on the front row for tonight's race. And Brennan Poole is the guy. Look how close it was. They were on pins and needles just like us.
Yeah, that's pretty close. I mean, that's pretty exciting for restrictor plate qualifying. that was a pretty good session.
Big score for Chip Ganassi Racing, Kelly.
Yeah, and you can see the celebrations. Their way to get it done. I mean, gosh, that was close, Brendan. But to pick up your first Xfinity Series pole here at Daytona, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, man, it's pretty special. But I was asking him during the break, I'm like, is he in the green? Is he in the green? Because I can't see any of it. But, man, it's really exciting. We had a really fast DC Solar Camaro in practice yesterday, and I felt like our single run speed was okay. I was disappointed the first run. I don't know, we must have had some wind pushing us or something down the backstretch to give us a good starting spot tonight, but just proud of the guys. We've been so good at the super speedways. Hopefully we can get it all the way and get it across the finish line first tonight.
Yeah, definitely showing that speed. You haven't quite had the finishes that you'd want, so what have you learned? What do you need to do differently here tonight?
Just be patient and try to stay out of trouble. It seems like these stage points guys really try to attack and get after it, so we've been discussing all week, me and my spotter Tyler Green and with Chad Norris on just trying to evaluate where we're at and risk versus reward and trying to be smart and make sure we're there at the end. I got a couple guys in mind that I worked well with yesterday in practice. I'm going to try to stay around all night. We'll see how it works out. Sometimes you have a plan and it's never that way, so we'll just have to see how it goes, but I'm certainly excited.
Certainly one thing to show the speed here in qualifying. Do you feel like you then have the car that you'll need once you guys get into that pack racing?
Yeah, I really didn't think that we had the speed that we needed to qualify this good. I don't know where it came from, but I felt really good in practice. I felt like my car drove a little bit better than it did at Talladega and Daytona earlier in this year. And with it being so hot and slick, hopefully that's a good sign. So, I just want to try to do everything that we can do to put ourselves in a good position at the end of the night to have a shot at it.
All right, Brennan Poole on the pole. Dave, congratulations, Brennan.
A chess game tonight at over 180 miles per hour all night long in the pack. Can Brennan Poole make the final checkered flag? He got to the front row, the pole position here at Daytona this afternoon. And there's going to be a few more Brennan Poole t-shirts and hats that go out the door, I would say, after this performance. Here's the starting grid for tonight's 250. Poole and Kennedy on the front row.
Yeah, a lot of young drivers there with not a ton of experience here. Should make for a fun, interesting start to this race.
See, Michael Annett made it there inside of row number 6. Ryan Reed, two-time winner to his outside. Reddick and Jones in row 7. And then a couple of RCR cars in row 8. Jeb Burton had a fast car in the draft yesterday. Should be able to make his way toward the front.
Jeb Burton, Cole Custer. We saw some of those guys. You got Casey Mears in the car that won the race here last year. These guys are listen, just because these guys aren't in the top 5 or 6 doesn't mean they're not in the race. Believe me, we're going to see these guys. Justin Allgaier there. These guys, we're going to see these guys up at the front of this pack.
And don't forget stages tonight. Correct.
Yes.
So we've got 3 checkered flags coming out, 2 of a green nature, and 1 that means all the race win points at the beginning or at the end of the night. So speaking of points, here they are. You see the wins and then the playoff points. They're in yellow. And Justin Allgaier has 1 of those and 7 of the latter. 3 winners so far in 2017 for the championship contenders, and a lot of room there for guys to work their way into playoff contention tonight.
Yeah, and this is one of those places. I mean, you see Elliott Sadler without a win, Daniel Hemrick without a win, Brennan Poole, who's on the pole without a win. This is that place that these guys can jump in there, get that win, score some playoff points in these stages, and really have a big impact on what we're seeing here from the playoff standings.
Yeah, not only that, but you look at drivers that are kind of there close. Blake Cook, who always runs well, will give himself a chance and a win gets him into the playoffs. Michael Annett, another that's really good at this plate racing, that maybe close on points as far as making it into that, but that would solidify his spot in the playoffs.
Last year we looked at this as these guys got to this point, and it was Blake Cook, Jeremy Clements, and Ryan Sieg fighting for that last place and in the final spot into the playoffs for him. This year, these guys guys are doing the same thing. These are 3 teams that just get a lot out of their equipment, and I love what Jeremy Clemens does. I love what that team does week in and week out.
See the Monster Energy Series cars rolling down pit road. Their qualifying will be next here at Daytona. And let's check in with Parker and William Byron.
William Byron will roll off 3rd in tonight's race. A good qualifying effort, but as we know at these restrictor plate races, sometimes that isn't the end-all be-all. It's what you do in the draft. How prepared are you for the draft?
I think pretty prepared. I think the biggest thing is I'm just more comfortable than what I was here in February, and hopefully that leads to some speed in the pack. So, but qualifying is all about the guys. They did a great job preparing this car. So, you know, to be 3rd, I think we're 18th in the spring race. So that's a big pickup. So really proud of them. Hopefully we can get another win tonight.
And you mentioned speed in the draft, not being as comfortable in February. Having run now Talladega, what is it that you feel more comfortable doing in the draft? Is it being able to bump draft? Is it side drafting? What is it that sticks out to you?
You know, probably just being comfortable in the race car. You know, a lot of things are different than the truck, the way you sit, everything. So just being more comfortable with my mirrors, everything. That stuff sounds kind of silly, but it's really important, especially here, just being able to know where guys are around you. So that's probably the biggest thing. And we have a little bit of pressure off us, so hopefully we can get a win.
William Byron coming off his first win last week, trying to do it again here tonight.
It really doesn't get much closer than that. Ben Kennedy coming up just a little bit short there in that second round of qualifying. Do you know where you missed out a little bit?
Not really sure. We gained a little there. I mean, a couple hundred. So I think nonetheless, we got a really fast Ream Camaro for tonight. The guys at RCR and ECR Motors did an awesome job. So we've got speed for sure. And we got the 11 pushing us on the outside, assuming the 48 takes the bottom. So hopefully we get up front and stay up front, but I'm looking forward to it. These guys work their tails off, and it's showing off for sure.
Yeah, you feel like you've got the car behind you too that will perform well once you get in on the racetrack in race conditions?
Yeah, I definitely think so. And lining up there with you know, with a teammate, with Blake behind us, will be pretty good. We pushed really well at Talladega earlier this year, so hopefully we can push around the inside line and get up front and kind of go from there.
Thank you, Ben.
Thanks.
Thanks, Kelly. He knows his circumstances and believes in that 2 team. NASCAR America weekdays at 5, tonight 6 on NBCSN to start all the Daytona coverage here from the Speedway. And that's a true short track. We talked about 4/10 separating the top 12 here. Like short track qualifying, but Iowa will be exciting with the Indy cars. Tonight, 3 stages, 30, 30, and 40, and we'll note that a fuel window goes beyond that, so there's going to be some interesting strategy played out.
There will be some. Obviously, in those first 2 stages, I don't think you'll see very many people pitting. We may see somebody try a little strategy, though, at the end of one of those. But I think when it gets to that last one, I think once they figure out this tire wear with this new tire, what may happen, KP, new tires may be an advantage.
Yeah, but I agree. And I'm going to say this, though. 30, 30, and 40, it's going to go quick.
Yeah.
I mean, they got to make something happen. You've got to make something happen in those 30-lap segments quick and get to the front and protect that front. So it's going to be an interesting race. Things are going to happen fast here, and things are going to be furious.
We mentioned at 6 p.m. NASCAR America. Leave it locked on to NBCSN for Countdown to Green. And then 250 miles at the World Center of Racing. Brand new last year here, this historic old racetrack. Back at Daytona, where Brennan Poole scored the pole for tonight's 250-miler, Daniel Hemrick was 5th, Parker.
Daniel Hemrick will roll off 5th tonight's race. A good qualifying effort, but you got to go out there and race. What do you have for tonight? We're going to be walking with you to the driver's meeting.
Yeah, on the way to the driver's meeting here, I think qualifying went a little long. No, I feel good about our Blue Gate Bank Chevy. We've made a lot of gains, I think, since we came here in the past. Not on the raw speed side, but more so making our cars drive good. And hopefully, as we get in the draft, we'll experience how much better we've made our cars and see it come to life and see what we got.
The Super Speedway races have not been that kind to you. And at Daytona and Talladega, what have you learned from those experiences that you can apply tonight that make you a little more confident?
I think really just being patient and the risk versus reward. I heard Brennan Poole talking about the same thing while I was changing clothes, and he's right. It's just a matter of not getting too amped up in the stage point racing, but also taking advantage of it if you're in the middle of it. So hopefully we can balance that like we need to and put ourselves in position all night.
Daniel Hemrick will try to use patience to be successful tonight.
Patience, balance, a lot on the line here tonight. Monster Energy Series qualifying coming up next. And then NASCAR America at 7 p.m. Countdown to green. All the stories that you need to get ready for the 7:30 Xfinity Series Coca-Cola Firecracker 250 presented by Subway. We'll follow that with a post-race show talking to everyone who ran up front during the night. Up next, Cup Series qualifying. Rick, Jeff, and Steve right here.